Hey guys, what's up? My name is Laura Farhi,
Maggie Snow,
and we are the geniuses behind Sister of Valor.
Geniuses. Yes,
Absolutely.
this is Nook that you'll see in the background here.
Absolutely.
So apologize for him in advance.
Aren't familiar with us crazy and cool fun ladies. We have been doing this blog now for the past month.
Yes.
We have known each other longer. So Maggie, why don't you tell everyone about how we know each other?
I used to date her husband.
Yep, she used to date my husband.
Hey, Chris.
Don't worry, she's not still dating him.
No,
so that's good.
no.
We're not those kinds of Christians, right? The ones that share.
Oh,
spouses.
sister wives?
Yeah. Maggie and I.
Can we just talk about how cool she is for actually wanting to be my friend? Because that is not normal.
Cool or like really weird? That the fact that I like that.
I'm going cool. I'm going with cool.
I don't know. That kind of seems like a horror movie like setup. You know, like the girl that goes and like befriends the husband's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, but that's not you. I friended you.
True.
Because we both are part of Tone It Up,
Yes.
which is a
Shout out to Karina and Katrina for bringing
Yes.
us together.
online fitness community. And when I signed up and created an Instagram for my Tone It Up, you popped up as someone I may know, which they somehow knew, which is weird.
I think I had Tone It Up like in my profile.
Because I friended you, and I think you immediately messaged me.
Because I saw that she had Tone It Up in her profile. And I was like, you're the
Yes.
only other person I've ever met that lives in Georgia that does Tone It Up. Of course I'm going to be friends with you.
Yes, but I met you one time before that at a party.
Yes.
And 12 years ago,
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
maybe. And so I remember meeting you and thinking you were beautiful, which you are.
I think you're beautiful too.
And then, so then I friended you on Instagram, and you, I think, immediately messaged me. And then we set up a time to get together with some other TIU Atlanta girls, right?
Yeah. Maggie and I have talked about this many times before, but if you aren't familiar with Tone It Up, and this isn't like, we're not trying to sponsor or be sponsored by Tone It Up, but I love Tone It Up because I feel like it's a place for women to connect with each other and support each other and be positive with one another. And typically, I feel like the general consensus is that most women don't get that kind of support from other women in their life.
Right.
And Tone It Up is definitely one of those places where you get that support.
Yes.
And being such a fan of that support, we wanted to replicate that kind of support in our blog.
Yes.
But with that being said, even though there is this amazing program where it helps give you workouts and nutrition advice and people to support you, I think the one thing we can all agree on is that we all struggle with body image issues and having days where we feel like we don't like our bodies and we don't like how we look and how we were made. And, so many times we hear people just be like, oh, you're beautiful the way you are. But sometimes you just don't feel that way.
I don't feel that way, and then I also feel like it's something to live up to. And so knowing that it's going to be something that goes away, that our looks will fade and we will age even when we try not to. Being a cute child and growing up being told that you're pretty, then you feel like that is your worth.
Your value.
In life is to be pretty. And so I remember I had a dad of a friend say if a guy ever said he liked me for my brain, he was lying.
Oh, wow.
And
really? Seriously?
Yes. That is so rude.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the idea, that your worth is in how your looks make people feel, but you know that there is a timetable on it, right?
Yes.
So it's trying to constantly, even if you think that you're pretty, trying to keep that up.
Yes, I mean, there's some truth to that. I mean, if you look at like the beauty industry, I mean, how much money do beauty products make? I mean, there's all kinds of beauty products that promise to get rid of your cellulite.
Yes.
That there's pills that they promise to help you get rid of your fat. There's beauty products to help you like anti-aging. You see that on all kinds of stuff, and I'm guilty of that. Like I know that I use products that are anti-aging. I'm like, well, I'm in my 30s. Like I feel like I should do all I can to make this be a graceful process. But we can't guarantee like how many products they use is going to be a graceful process.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's even the idea that if you gain 5 or 10 pounds, that your worth is somehow devalued because of it, or if you have a wrinkle that that's, and so with like girls at work, I mean, I catch myself doing this all the time. The girls at school, it's like, I'm like, you're so cute, oh my God, you're so pretty. And it's like trying to stop that
Little girls
narrative for them that is somehow that your worth is wrapped up in that.
Yes, actually.
And it's something that you need to keep up.
I appreciate you bringing that to my attention, because actually I am guilty of this. Like I tell my daughter all the time, like,
do it all the
you're
time.
so beautiful, you're so pretty, you're so cute. Like she really is like the sweetest, most precious. Like when you think of, I'm not saying this just because she's my kid, but like when you think of like a little girl, like the epitome of a little girl. She's
adorable.
And the cuteness.
Yes.
She's like the epitome of a little girl. Like you're so cute, like
yes.
you're so adorable. But then whenever I catch myself saying that, I try to be like, her name's Ella. I'm like, Ella, are you strong? She's like, yes, I'm strong. I'm like, are you smart? Yes, I'm smart. So I try to like make sure I say that too. But I mean, you're right. I think I probably tell her she's pretty way more than I tell her she's smart or strong.
Because I think that we do that because we know that they're going to struggle with that. And so we want to affirm them in their looks because we know that it's something they're going to struggle with down the road, not knowing that we're also kind of playing into the idea that they need to be pretty to be worthy. You know, so it's like we're trying to counteract it. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to, when I'm telling them how cute they are, it's either because they are really, really cute, or because I think maybe they are going to struggle with that because maybe they're not as cute as some girls in their class. And so I'm trying to counteract that, but I think I'm inadvertently playing into the idea that you need to be beautiful.
That makes me think of that Marilyn Monroe quote that says something like, every little girl should be told that she's pretty even if she isn't.
Yes.
And I feel like women have especially bought into how, to me, I feel like beauty is the equivalent of power. Like if a man is like, what's the name? Jeff Bezos, the guy that owns Amazon or something like that. Like, you know, he's like the richest man in the country. Like he's running a successful company. I know he just got divorced, but even his wife got like an insane amount of money. He probably drives a really nice car, you know, like that. When a man has like that many credentials in his resume, so to speak, or visibly is successful, that is his power. And I think Andy Stanley said this one time. It's like when you're powerful or when you're famous, suddenly everything you say, everyone thinks it's interesting.
Right.
Everyone like pays attention to you somehow. Whatever you say is more valuable. And I feel like for women, if you're beautiful, it's the same way. I mean, I feel like I have known what it's like to be on both ends of the spectrum, because when I was 12 or 13, I went through the awkward kind of puberty stage where I was fluffier than maybe some other kids in my class. And in my head, I still see myself as that chubby 13-year-old girl that boys would make fun of. And I felt like that was something that I should be ashamed of myself because I wasn't pretty and that they didn't find me desirable. And so I have spent a lot of my teens and a lot of my 20s and probably even my 30s trying to prevent that from happening again, because I don't want to lose that power that you get from being pretty.
Yeah.
There's power in pretty.
I was thin in high school, I guess. And then in high school, I got really sick and we couldn't figure out what was going on. but I would have terrible stomach pains and would vomit from the stomach pains, and my parents took me to the doctor, and we trying to figure out what was going on. Well, it ended up being that I wasn't going to the bathroom enough.
Oh, wow.
So I was super constipated, but I didn't know, because who talks about how often they go to the
girls
bathroom,
don't poop, right?
So
we're not supposed to poop.
Right, so I didn't know that I was going like not enough, and so, you know, my doctor of course told me he put me on a diet that I didn't pay any attention to, and so I started taking laxatives, and I got to the point in probably my first year of college where I was taking 20 a day.
Wow.
Just to go to the bathroom. And I was just building up a tolerance to it, but it was also making me lose weight. And I had gained a lot of weight my first year of college, like end of my senior year into beginning of my freshman year of college. I had gained a lot of weight, and so part of that was because I wasn't going to the restroom normally. And so when I started taking laxatives, then I was starting to go to the restroom more regularly, and I was losing weight, and I liked that, and I got attention for that.
Yes, because you get affirmed. Like, oh
Yes.
my gosh, you look so skinny. You look like you've lost weight. And for like a girl, it's like...
And I would get kind of reaffirmed, like I could eat anything and be losing weight. People would kind of treat me like, you have such a great metabolism.
Makes me wonder, like, how many women have like closet eating disorders?
Yes.
Like, to them, like, they think, well, I don't look like I'm super anorexic, so I don't really have an eating disorder.
Right.
Because I feel like I've done something similar. Like, I've also have taken laxatives. I went through like a stage where I went through like a really bad breakup. I found out that this guy cheated on me. And I kind of, like, I knew there was something wrong, and I kind of forced him to, like, tell me, like, what's wrong, like, you need to tell me, and he admitted he cheated on me. So obviously we broke up, and it kind of aggravated a whole lot of internal issues, because I was like, it's because I'm not pretty enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not good enough, and I was so upset that I didn't eat. And I didn't do it on purpose. I think it was just, that's kind of how I am emotionally. Like, if I'm upset, I can't eat.
Me too. If I'm really, really stressed, I don't feel really hungry.
Yes.
Yes.
And so that was like the skinniest I ever was. Like, if we're talking, if there's like a barometer of like where your weight should be for your height, I was like on the lowest end. And when I lost all that weight, people treated me differently. People were nicer to me. People it suddenly made me feel special because I was so skinny, and people commented about how skinny I was all the time, and I loved that, and I bought into that, and I counted calories to make sure, like, I religiously counted calories. I remember I had a little notebook. It was like a little spiral notebook that I used to carry around in my purse. I would literally document every single thing that I ate, and at some point it was like 600 calories a day.
Dang.
And sometimes I would even, if it felt like I needed to eat a little bit more, maybe I'd allow myself to be 800. But yeah, I stayed skinny and that, like, that mindset is still in there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, but do you ever consider wanting to take laxatives again to?
Yeah, well, I still have to sometimes, because I still have what I have done to my body can't be undone. Very difficult to feel any appreciation for my body. I mean, I just learned, even from being a kid, just to cover up. And that is part of being a Christian too, or growing up in church, is this idea that the way that I dress is going to make somebody else
stumble.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't be the reason why men stumble, ladies.
Right. So it's interesting because it plays in both sides. So not only are you already hypersensitive to your body and what you look like, you're now being told on the other end that the way that you dress and the way that you look, that somehow that is responsible for other people.
Yes.
So it's not just singular, it's I am somehow responsible for other people's behavior. And so it's very difficult to already be insecure about your body and have to think about that too and have to cover up, because I do have boobs and I'm not
Can't
flat
hide
chested,
those, yeah.
but I used to wrap them in,
Really?
yeah, I used to wrap them in ace bandages because it was like, that was bad. You couldn't,
Wow. So this
like,
is why
nobody
you were
told
so-
me that. Like, nobody said you need to wrap yourself up, but you are told to cover up. You're told to cover up and you're told to, dress a certain way and to not make men stumble. Well, what does that even mean? Because I would be hearing from guys, it doesn't really matter what you wear.
Mhm. Yeah, girls can be wearing
It
sweatpants.
doesn't really, yeah, I mean, it
A
doesn't
trash
really.
bag. And be
Yes,
like,
and
what's
so
she
then
got
it's-
underneath that trash bag?
Yes,
Nothing.
so then it's like, well, then what am I supposed to do?
You can't win.
So basically, be ashamed of your body.
yes. Yeah.
Be ashamed, cover it up, alter it if you can. And so I just felt like I was trying to be so perfect to everybody else. And we've talked about this, but my perfection issues have always had to do with being perfect in the church. I've never really, thankfully, I guess, fallen to trying to follow a bad crowd, bad, quote unquote, whatever that is in my mind. I've never really tried to follow a bad crowd, but I have tried to be perfect in a church's image. And that has really wrecked me because it's made me look at myself kind of shamefully on my own. Just internalizing what pastors and leaders have told me over the years. And covering up was a big part of it.
Yeah,
Covering up and not making other people stumble or whatever was a huge part of it. So that really played into my body issues. And
That's a good point.
I'm just now, honestly, as a 34-year-old coming out of that, into my late 20s, I was still wrapping myself
Wow.
up.
So was this when you were still, because I know we mentioned earlier about Chris, like you guys all went to the same church.
Yes.
And they both went to the same Christian school. And which she's not the director of now, by the way. She's a director of a Christian school, but not that
Not
Christian
that
school. So just to be clear. So when you were a part, because I remember you telling me that you were like super active and a part of this youth group of
Yes.
this church. Was this when you started doing the rapping and like over correcting
I
your body?
remember being not okay. You have to understand that this story is coming from me remembering as a teenager, so it's probably a little dramatic and not accurate.
As people have told me, your feelings are still valid because they are your feelings
Okay.
and it's your perspective. 'Cause
Okay.
I've said similar things, so it doesn't discredit your
So
perspective.
I remember, so our youth pastor was funny. He used to, he didn't want to tell us how to dress, so he would turn the air down really
I've
to
heard
a
churches do that a
low
lot.
setting
Yeah.
so that the girls would have to wear like sweatshirts or whatever.
I heard they still do that in churches now.
Yes, and
Like
so
mega churches.
he did that, and so, but I remember being, I'm gonna call it scolded because that's how I recollect it, being scolded by a youth leader because, this was the early 2000s and we would wear like
Low-rise jeans.
low-rise jeans.
Thank you, Britney Spears,
Thank
for
you,
that.
Brittany.
Yeah.
So low-rise jeans and like spaghetti straps that showed like this much of our stomach, right?
Oh, the 2000s.
Right, and I didn't appreciate that I had a good figure then, okay? I didn't appreciate
Yeah.
it. I didn't, I just wore what everyone else was wearing. I didn't appreciate that it would, so I had on low-cut jeans and one of those spaghetti straps that showed like this much of my stomach. And this youth leader came up to me and she told me that what I was wearing was inappropriate. And I happened to have on the exact same shirt as her daughter who was in youth group.
Really?
Now her daughter is like 5 foot nothing
Uh-huh.
and weighs like 100 pounds, right? Just
Itty bitty.
petite, itty bitty. And I remember just being so offended, And I'm 5'9", I'm not petite.
She's a gazelle. A beautiful
No,
gazelle.
I'm not petite, And I wasn't then, and I now in retrospect can say I can see the difference, because I struggle with this at work with my employees. Like, there are some teachers who wear, can't think of the word, like a sleeveless top, and I think nothing of it. And then there's other teachers that I'm like, ooh, you should be wearing a sleeveless top. But if the sleeveless top is in uniform, then you can't say anything about it. But it's kind of, that was, in retrospect, I now understand that different body types, it looks different things look different.
Yes.
But at the time, I thought that was so, I felt so shamed, I guess is the word. Not embarrassed. I felt like I should be ashamed of myself for wearing it. That it was like, you have to dress a certain way. You need to wear, we used to call them safety shirts. You need to wear a safety shirt so that if I bend down, you don't see any of my back. My safety shirt is tucked in. And it was just kind of reinforced, I guess, in youth group, because they thought all the girls were gonna be rebellious and dress a certain way. But for me, trying to be perfect in church, and because I'm not very rebellious, it was like, cover up. Don't have the body that you have. You should be ashamed of the fact that you have.
People notice your body, you need to cover it up.
And cover it all the way up.
Yeah. I don't know if the church perpetuates this idea, if they're the originator of this idea, or if it's like old Victorian Puritan values, which I guess is still,
right,
Christian related, but it just sucks that like women are constantly being told that we need to monitor our bodies, and men don't ever have to. Like, you think of like the youth groups, swimming sessions, girls are wearing t-shirts over their bathing suits.
Yes.
And boys can still have their man nipples hanging out, and nobody ever says anything about that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So it's just,
oh yeah, every church trip is like, wear a one piece, or if you only have two pieces, you need to bring a shirt to put on over it.
it's so frustrating too, because it's like I can't help that I'm a girl, and men are gonna think about what they think about regardless of whether or not I'm around.
Yeah.
A female doesn't literally have to be in their presence for men to have these thoughts. Like, they can go and find the things that they need to see the things that they want to see. It no longer has to be a real live female in their
And the thing
presence.
that's always interesting to me is I honestly, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think that women dress for other women.
Yes. Yes,
I
absolutely.
don't, when I'm getting ready to go out with a group of girls, I'm thinking about what they're gonna be wearing, and I'm trying to mimic that, or I'm really not thinking about what's gonna get me the most male attention. So it's like, you have to monitor yourself, because you need to be thinking about how everybody else views you. Yet in church, they're also on the flip side telling you that God loves you as you are. There's a lot of conflicting information that, especially as a teenager, you're just trying to kind of grapple with and figure out what you think is right. And I delved fully into making sure that I was not leading anybody down a wrong path.
Like, you were talking about how the church gives like conflicting information, and I kind of agree with that, because we talk about like God can count the number of hairs on your head, and that you shouldn't be critical of your body because God made you that way.
Right.
If you've got cellulite, like, God made you that way. You should love your body.
Yep.
As it is. But then on the other hand, women are being told from the church and from certain religious people that like, you should be ashamed of your bodies, because your bodies, your evil temptresses. I mean, they may not be saying that literally. Like, they may not like.
That's how it feels, though.
Yes.
That's how it feels, especially over time
Underhanded,
when you're hearing.
subtext.
Yes.
That our job is to be making sure that we keep men on the right track.
Like I said, it's not just from one Sunday. It's from being, for me, it's from being infiltrated in it. It's lots of comments in sermons over time. It's, like you said earlier, private Christian school, so had Bible classes there, and you were very monitored on what you wore there as well. And so it was just, it's a lot of information over time growing up in church saying that you should be and look and act a certain way. That, and your body is a temple, and that, you know, and whatever that means. I mean, I know that that's in the Bible, that your body is a temple, but it kind of makes it seem like you can't do anything with your body.
And actually, I've talked about this on the blog before, but Andy Stanley recently wrote a book. We're going to talk about Andy Stanley a lot.
We love
Disclaimer,
Andy.
we love Andy.
We love Andy.
We are borderline fangirls of him, but he talks about, in his new book, Irresistible, he goes to the scripture about your body is a temple.
Okay.
And what that literally means is that your body is a temple because the Holy Spirit, God himself, dwells within your body. So no longer do you have to go to temples to worship God. Now, you are the temple. You're the walking temple that carries, like, the ark. Temple because Christ lives within us. Not necessarily our body is a temple because we should make it perfect and we should take care of it. Like, Jesus doesn't care if you're 500 pounds. That doesn't mean the Holy Spirit isn't going to be within you. Or, like, if you have tattoos
I like that.
and piercings,
Yeah.
the Holy Spirit is still a part of that temple. I think the thing that, like, what I love about Jesus and the Bible, like, I realize, I've sent this question on Twitter recently where I was like, what keeps you from reading the Bible? And it actually took an interesting turn.
Yeah, what kind of responses did you get to that? I've seen your...
It was mostly
post
from
about
atheists.
Okay.
Who were kind of like, to me, the Bible is a fantasy book. It's a fiction. It's not written well enough. I can't relate to it. And, I was just like, all right, I respect your answers. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're coming from, because there are pieces, people have taken the Bible very literally from beginning to end, and that's off-putting. And I get that, and I respect that, and I understand that. But the thing that changes the Bible for me is just who Jesus was. And I feel like everyone can all agree Jesus was a pretty awesome dude.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anyone that can say anything terrible about him, Like, hey, when Jesus, like, made that leper normal and not a leper anymore, like, that's pretty cool. Or when he went to that woman that, the woman at the well, she was a Samaritan. She was technically an outcast. Jews hung out together. They didn't associate with other people. And the fact that he was even talking to her because she was a Samaritan woman was like, Jesus, what are you doing? We don't talk to people like that, Like, I feel like he never went to the woman in the well and be like, hey, that shirt you got on is kind of low, sister. He never said things like that.
This, but I think it was Andy Stanley who said that Jesus was the first feminist.
Yes, I agree with that statement.
And I totally agree with that. And when he said it, I was like, that is very true. And then he gave some examples, and I thought that was very interesting, because when women were really looked down upon and not respected, and their opinions weren't respected, and their ideas and things like that, he was the one going to them and was showing them care and love and asking their opinions and caring about who they were, when really women were super disregarded at the time. And I thought that was a really good point, that it's not just that he loved people at the time that the Bible was written. Loving people didn't really have anything to do with women. Yeah, it was more like just kind of loved the other Jews. Yes.
That's what it was at that time.
Yeah.
And even like the children too. I mean, he valued children and sick people, and at that, and I think Andy talked about this as well, is that at that point, like, if you were sick or if something was wrong with you, they thought it was because your parents sinned or somebody in your family sinned.
Yes.
And you deserved whatever it was that came to you. And Jesus totally didn't see people that way. And he always valued people for where they were in their life and not where they were supposed to be.
Yes.
And I've heard people say it's like when you love somebody, you slowly change for them. You know, it's like when I think of it like being in a relationship, right? It's like if you were to go on a date with a guy and he says, I want to marry you. Like, whoa, bro, I just met you. I'm not going to change my life to get married to you just because you asked me to.
Right.
Like, I feel like that's what people have reduced Christianity to. It's like, well, you know Jesus, that means you need to completely change your life and look just like him. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. Like, you have to have a relationship with him. You have to fall in love with him. And it has to be a progression where you and Jesus sort these things out.
And just like in a marriage, you're not, I still am not who Matt would want me to be, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm still constantly changing and evolving over the years, but I'm not trying to become exactly who he wants me to be. I'm trying to become who I think I need to be, and that looks different for everybody. And so it's just kind of, what God is telling me to look like right now in this moment can be very different from year to year.
Yes.
Very different.
Yes.
It doesn't look a certain way.
And it's not like copy paste. Like just
No.
because it's working for you doesn't mean it's going to be that same way for someone else.
No.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Well, I feel like we covered a lot
of stuff.
of information.
She said we were going to do a 5-minute video, and
Yeah.
we've done a 58-minute video.
Anyways, if you're still watching, thank you.
You're a trooper, a real trooper.
And if you have, I don't know, agree with anything that we said, or which you should,
Obviously.
because we're experts.
Right,
No, just
right.
kidding. If there's anything that we've said that I feel like has resonated with you, or maybe if you disagree with us, that's fine too. You know,
Please,
comment. You know, subscribe to the blog. We're on Instagram. I'll put that information here. We'll tag
Somewhere
that.
here.
Like the channel on YouTube,
Yes.
because we have a little YouTube channel that you can like.
yes.
Click
Yes,
that.
yes.
So, okay. Well,
Thank you guys.
yeah. And peace, love, and Jesus, y'all.